What is up, my loves? Welcome back to another episode of the Fully Alive podcast. My name is Stephanie Elsperman. I am your host today. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm a speaker, coach, and entrepreneur, really here to shift the way that we all see life, purpose, baby. And this podcast is a place where we dive into all things activating your life's purpose, living a life beyond just checking the boxes of what other people have told you will bring you success or fulfillment, and really finding that specific thing that you are here to be about in this world based on your past experiences, your vision, your values, and the mission that you're here to serve. So if you're new here, welcome to this space. I'm so excited that you've decided to tune in. I cannot wait to bring you this podcast episode. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm excited that we get to have a little bit of time to deepen together because, as you all can tell by this title, this is an entire life update. And what's so funny is that I went into this week thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to record this super, value-packed episode on this one specific tip or strategy that you can implement. And yesterday, when I was outside being with my garden, which I love, and I talk about this in the episode. This is a new hobby of ours. We've created a vegetable garden for the summer. But as I was out there, I was like, I feel called to share something different. And this is twofold because one of the biggest questions that I've been noticing throughout my own community and with my clients is, Steph, can I actually show up and share my own life experiences and what I'm learning through and what I'm growing through and still be taken seriously, quote unquote, taken seriously as a leader and as an authority in my own industry? And there might be that part of your own brain that resonates with that question, or that feels like you have to show up perfectly, especially if you're creating a business or a brand. You have to show up perfectly. You have to only give education, only give value in order for people to really see you in your own leadership. And what's so wild and so funny is that I understand this because there's so much talk in the industry around how to show up as an authority. And I even talk about this all the time, and that you have to, do X, Y, and Z in order to be seen as a leader. And I think sometimes we forget about the human inside, that for every single leader out there that you might follow or you might look up to, that you are, there is also a human. There's a human that is moving through life experiences, that is constantly learning, growing, evolving, and changing and shifting. And being a leader in this world is not about having your shit together so perfectly all of the time and only giving value. That's not what makes you a leader. Because if that is, your leadership is going to be fleeting. Your authority in your industry is going to be fleeting because you are human. You have life experiences. There are different things that happen. You're not always going to show up perfectly. It's how you respond to the experiences in your life. That is what makes you a leader. That is what never changes, because it's how you lead yourself through every single experience. And some days you're going to have days where you're like, I led myself through that so freaking well. Amazing. And then there's going to be other days where you're like, I could have done that a little bit better. There's going to be moments where you're really immersed in your life and there's all these things going. And if you feel like you can only share one side of your life in order to be taken seriously, you're going to miss out on this whole other side, because the reality is that there really is no separation between your human and your leader. You are one and the same. And I talk about this in the podcast, but for me, one of the greatest growth and learning experiences is through my own life, through things that are even seemingly unrelated to my own business. I learned so much from my relationships. I learned so much from being out in my garden. I learned so much from meeting different people and taking on different experiences that then make me a better leader. There really is no separation. And the common mistake that I see is that when you're not sure of your own specific genius and what you have to offer, that X factor that makes you different than other people within your industry, you're going to base your authority or your leadership on something very broad, and then feel like you have to show up perfectly in every single area of your life and never share, the things that you're growing through or the things that are actually going on. You're going to feel like you have to show up in this facade to try and prove to yourself that you have an authority, that you are actually a genius. But when you are actually centered in your own specific X factor, that thing that you do so incredibly well based on your past experiences, your innate genius and your innate gifts, and also your learned skills, there is this groundedness that happens because you know that your leadership does not fleet when you're having a life experience. Your leadership does not just go away because you share what you're growing through. In fact, it's actually deepened because you apply the lens of your genius to every single thing that you do. That's the power of your X factor. And so, for example, it's like for the longest time, I felt like I needed to be perfect in every single area of my life to understand that I was a good coach or a good guide or a good business person. No, I just have to own that I'm a genius at the specific things that I do and how I do them and apply that to all these other areas of my life. And I get to be human too. I get to take up space as well. So, a lot of my intention with this podcast is yes, to share a whole life update, but also to walk the walk. It's like I've been talking about this basically all month in my own private containers. Let me just walk the walk and share with you guys some things that I'm learning through, I'm growing through right now, and really the things that I personally am looking at within my own life, in hopes that maybe how I am processing or seeing things personally in my life right now, there's something that resonates with you and really drops in for you as well, because that's the whole point of leadership. Is when you are doing the growth work on yourself, typically you're going to see your life experiences from a much different perspective than other people around you, the 99% of human beings in this world. You're going to see things just a little bit differently, and sharing that perspective around how you are seeing the experiences in your own life, how you are leading yourself through in a way that there will always be value in that. Because, how we learn is through sharing experiences. How we learn is through storytelling. So when you can actually share that with somebody else, sometimes that's even more valuable than when you show up and you're like, I have to say this is the one specific strategy or this is the way to be able to do this. Like, no, be real, be human, share your life experiences. We're going to learn through how you lead yourself. So this is also a really great practice for me personally in taking up space. This is something I've noticed within my life and something I'm growing through is I am really good at holding space for other people. And, it's the work that I do. I love asking people questions about themselves to understand their own specific genius and their X factor and their purpose in this world. I love it. Freaking love it. Can't get enough of it. And I also noticed that my muscle memory essentially has gotten really good at holding space, but not necessarily taking up space. Like there is still part of my own brain that's like, oh, would anyone care if I actually shared this? Is this of value to anyone? I still have those parts of myself. And so this is also twofold of like, it's a really freaking good exercise to dive in, to share with you guys the behind the scenes around what I'm personally moving through and what I'm learning in my relationship, in my community, with Connecticut in our house, like all of these things to take up space. So I hope that this is your permission slip to also take up space within your life. If you notice that you hold space for other people, what would it be like to create a safe space where you can also share and realize that there's such freaking value in that? There is so much value in all of that. So with that said, let's just dive into it. I'm going to be walking the walk. I love you all, and I will see you on the other side. Mwah. Whew. All right, let's do this thing. So let's start broad. How am I really? How am I really? It's interesting because it's a question that I ask everyone in my life. I love asking this question of like, how are you really? Like, actually, not just how are you so that someone can respond, oh, I'm good, great, thanks, fine. But how are you really? Like, how is your human? And my human right now feels incredibly, first of all, happy and joyful. Like, I'll be honest. I am, oh, I don't know why that's going to bring tears to my eyes. Wow. Yeah. It's my birth month. Why am I going to cry? You guys, we haven't even said anything. It's a month of my birthday. And I feel like for the first time in my life, I feel incredibly settled. Not settling, because I think that's a little bit different, but settled, grounded, rooted in my life, myself, my own leadership, and trusting that in my life with Nolan and the space that we're in Connecticut. And from that feeling of being settled, I feel incredibly supported. Not necessarily in, oh, I have all of these structures and all these things around me that support me, but in that feeling of, well, when I am grounded, I am fully supported by life itself. When I am settled in myself and not searching or trying to prove or looking for the next thing or what is the next move that's going to make me more content than I can be right now, there is this natural support that it feels like it just comes up from the earth and just all encompasses everything, where there is such a deep level of trust that I have right now within my life, trust in God, trust in universe, source, whatever you want to call it, to continue blooming. And this has not come without its trials and tribulations, let me be incredibly honest. Um, but from that groundedness, there's an aliveness that's come. And I say this also because if I want to be a little bit less cryptic, we are celebrating almost 2 years this month in Connecticut, like actually being grounded in what I now call our home, which is very interesting because I think most of my life leading up to this point, I had been moving from place to place. And I'm a very growth oriented person, very much like I'm going to live where I want to live, very much like let me manifest every single thing from my vision board. And so I always had my sights set on, I grew up in St. Louis. So I always had my sights set on like being by the water and trying out these different places and moving around till I found really where I wanted to be. And which is funny because I'm also a Cancer, so I also just like being at home. But so much of my life, I feel like I've been hopping from place to place, living, in St. Louis, Denver, thinking about moving to Florida, like all of these different things. And now being 2 years in Connecticut, it's that feeling of like, gosh, like I'm really home. Like this is really our life. We're really doing it. We're growing roots and I'm really home, which is so wild to say. Nolan and I laugh about it every single day. We wake up and we're like, who put us here? What's happening? This is really our life. And yes, I say that about like our physical location in Connecticut because we never thought we'd be here. But also just the life that we're living and the lifestyle that we are living right now. There's part of it. We say this both good and bad. Like, who fucking put us here sometimes? We are like overwhelmed with responsibility. But most of the time, it's like, how do we get here? Because I think this move, and I talk about it so often, yeah, because like we move locations and that's just a different thing in life, but also because we moved and it represented, for me, what it represents is like following those threads of just what the next yes is, following the threads of God, source, universe, to continue following the yeses and the yeses and the yeses, trusting that he is bringing you to this or something greater, your vision or something greater. And for me, this has been completely the something greater. And the biggest like bamboozlement of like, I cannot believe like, I thought what I thought I wanted is not even like, this is just everything and more. And so there's this deep feeling of surrender of like, I have no idea what the universe has planned next. I have no idea where that next move actually is. But for right now, we feel so settled in our home, in our relationships. I'll speak for myself. In my home, in our home, it's still our home. In my relationship, in our community that's around, in my own leadership, especially. And I think, there's part of me that looks around and I'm like, it can't possibly be this settled. Something has to happen to shake it all up. Like something's going to happen. And part of that is reality because I know there's always going to be these huge shifts. And every single time I think like, yeah, this is cool, the universe is like, here's another thing and here's another thing. And so part of that is like the nature of reality. Part of that is also my subconscious that wants to keep me from actually feeling safe right now and actually taking all of this in and taking that joy and that happiness that I started with actually in. Because I'm like, it couldn't possibly be this good. Let's just stay in survival mode. Let's just stay grinding. Let's just stay putting our nose down and saying, oh, well, it couldn't possibly be this good, and keep ourselves in that constant state of proving. But if I've realized anything, especially coming up on my birthday this month, I'm like, God, it feels so fucking good to not be proving anymore. And sure, there might still be parts of myself that come up and want to prove every so often, because I am fully aware of just the lifelong evolution. And every single time I think that I've moved through something, there's another layer that comes back up. But I feel like for so long in my life, up until this point, and, especially with business, I've been in business for about maybe like 3 years, 4 years now. Well, time flies, which is wild. And I got into this business, and a lot of my family never understood. Still to this day, if my family's listening to this, I love you. Thank you all for being supportive. Now, still to this day, though, I still get questions around around my business and what I do and what it actually does, and like all these different things, because most people who aren't fully aware of the online sphere and building businesses online don't really know what all this is about. But being in business and growing it for this long, there is a part of me that just settles into the fact that, yeah, I know that I'm really fucking good at certain things that I do. And I know that this works. And I know that, like, I've created something for the rest of my life, and it's going to continue to evolve and grow and shift and change over time. And I'm always looking for, how do we want to tweak things and make things more efficient, make things better. But there's just that part of myself where I'm like, I'm no longer proving that I can actually do this. I'm no longer proving that this is a viable idea or something that I just want to do and let's see if it'll, like, no, like, it's just, I'm here. I am here, and I'm settled in my leadership, and the fact that I have the evidence to back it up, that yes, I know what my genius is. I know what my specific X factor is that I can bring into the world. And I understand how I want this to grow, and I understand what I have my sights set on for the future. Like, there is just this settling that creates this feeling, not of settling and being like, I'm good here, but this feeling of like, let's fucking go. Like, we're settled in ourselves, we're settled in our leadership. I'm grounded in who the fuck I am. And every single day reprogramming, myself to really step into the leader that I know that I'm here to be in this lifetime. And also, like, let's fucking go. Like, we have literally nothing to lose. We have already proved ourselves to ourselves. And who did I ever actually need to prove to? Nobody, right? Of course, nobody. But there was that subtle, like, subconscious little proving. And it wasn't necessarily something that I feel like was running every single day or that I was even aware of. But I'm just aware of it now, because hindsight is always 2020, where I'm like, yeah, I am who I am. I know that I'm good at what I do. I know that it creates impact. I'm so fucking excited to impact even more people. And let's go. Like, let's see how much we can grow this. I mean, Nolan and I, we always talk about that we're in a very like selfish season of our lives where we don't have a family. We are just us here. And yes, we have the responsibilities of a house and a brick and mortar store and my business and his business all running under one roof. But like, we just get to grow and we get to expand. It's like our environment is settled. Our relationship and our commitment, I think for a long time, especially in our relationship, y'all are getting all the tea, especially in our relationship, we were very much in, and I will speak for my own personal experience because that man says that he has known what he has wanted since the day that we met. But I have very much been in like, okay, like, how does this work? How does our relationship work? Are we, you know, growing together in the same way, or aren't we? And really just exploring what we wanted our relationship to look like in the future, but especially living together and just going through this huge expansion in our own capacity. I mean, before we never worked together. We very much had our own separate businesses, our own separate visions. I was in mine, he was in his. Now that we live together, we have a jewelry store and also both of our businesses, there's a lot more overlap. I will help him with systems and marketing. He will also help me with ideas. If he ever needs help with the jewelry store, typically I do everything behind the scenes. I'm not actually like in there, but we can't help but be talking about our ideas constantly and really building a vision together where there's so much more overlapping and intertwining together that we've also had to learn what it's like to like be a team and be in business together and also still have romance and connection and all of that while living together. And for the longest time, we didn't have that many friends here. So it was just us constantly. We had to learn that. And now that we have gone through this huge expansion in our own capacity, and it's going to continue to expand, like we are very aware of that, that we really don't have that much on our plate aside from our own house stuff. Like when we have a family, it's going to be a whole nother story. But right now, like we've been through all of these things, that our relationship is so freaking strong and our commitment is so deep to each other. Not our commitment to it being perfect. Like there's so much love in our relationship, but it's not perfect. Like we have to work at growing our relationship. Not that, it's like all of this effort and there's all of these struggles and blah, blah, blah. But it's like we do have to put an effort into keeping the spark alive, for example, into having like our deep emotional connection when sometimes things get stressful in life. Like all of these things, like we put effort into it, but our relationship is stronger than it's ever been. There's commitment. There's no longer a question of like, will we or won't we? It's just we are. Like we are doing this and we are in this for our life. And we put work into it. And so there's that settling in our relationship as well. There's a settling in our home of like, we're not going anywhere. People ask us, like, are you going to stay in Connecticut? It's like, well, we do have a brick and mortar store here. So like, there's really no, in our near future, we're not like, yeah, we're going to move tomorrow. Like, absolutely not. We are totally open to where life takes us and what opportunities come our way. That's how Nolan and I have always been. That's how we landed here, was through a business opportunity. And so his commitment is like, yeah, you know what, whatever doors open, that's what we're going to follow. We're going to follow that tug of our, yes, we can never say that our life is never going to change for the next 10 years. Like, absolutely fucking not. Like, we are going to grow and we are going to shift. However, for the immediate future, we're not in that phase of like, oh yeah, I'm living in Denver this year and then maybe I'll move to Florida and then maybe I'll find this place and then, like hopping around. Like, we are in our home for the foreseeable future and we love it. There's so much opportunity here. It has been an absolutely incredible experience. So there's settling in our environment, settling in my leadership, settling in my relationship, settling in just like our life. And now we're starting to build community, which is so freaking awesome. Something that I've been so excited for. I am not shy to the fact that I'm a Cancer. And some of you guys don't know this, but I'm actually very introverted. I call myself an extroverted introvert, where I can talk to any single person most of the time, unless I am in my late luteal phase or I'm bleeding. Like, nobody talked to me then. But most of the time, I love talking to people. I love getting to know people's stories. It's literally what I do. I just love understanding human beings and love connecting. And also, I need a lot of alone time. Like, I'm a 2-4 in my human design. So I've got that hermit in me, the 2, and the 4 is the people person, which is super funny. So I have both sides of myself. And so when it comes to business, like I'm talking to people all day long. No one's talking to people all day long. So for a long time, it was just us, like really figuring out how do we keep all these balls in the air and also then be exhausted at the end of the day. And so now that we feel this settling, we're like, let's build community. And it's something that we are really excited to continue just digging into, because we want to have people that are neighbors, that are around us, that really have our back. And it was funny, last weekend, we went out with some friends and we went from having no plans to having plans like every single day. And we went out with some of our neighbors and it was one of those feelings of like, holy shoot, like these people are going to be in my life for forever. And I know that they have our back and that we have theirs. And it just made me so grateful because we don't have family out in Connecticut, but to get to create that sensation of family through people around is something that I don't know that I've really ever had. I have incredibly close girlfriends that are scattered all around the country and also internationally, like ride or die, will never leave my life sort of girlfriends. But in terms of having, people around us and couple friends that we feel like we're like, I've got your back, you've got mine, like we haven't fully had that yet. And so to come up upon that, we're just like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And we get to create even more. And so now we're starting to create community. We're getting out into the world. Nolan and I do what I call diversifying our fulfillment portfolio. So I see so often with high performers where you will expect your fulfillment to come from maybe one of two areas in your life. Maybe it is your business or your career, and then your relationships, or maybe it's your business and your career and your finances, or your travel. who knows, right? But we will narrow in on these two specific areas to bring you fulfillment, when actuality, there are so many different categories to pull your fulfillment from. There is your spiritual connection, there is your fun and your passion. I call it your fun factor. There is your relationships, there's your romantic relationship, there's your finances, there's your business, there is your personal growth. There's so many different areas to pull your fulfillment from. And so one thing I start to notice is that if I'm honing in on one specific area and I'm starting to feel stale or stagnant, we have to bring in other sides of our fulfillment. So we do that through this weekend. We created a whole garden in our backyard. We're doing salsa dancing. I want to take up a language and really just like being in our life. And what's so funny is I will also hear this from clients where they're like, if I'm in my life, then I forget about my business. And if I'm in my business, I forget about being in my life. And like, how do I balance all of it? And to me, it's like, there's no separation. There's no separate, that doesn't mean that I'm always on my phone. I am totally the person who will leave my phone and go and do my thing. There's no separation, because me being in my life feeds me being a leader. Me being a leader then feeds how I am in my life. And all of it becomes this beautiful ecosystem. And it's all one and the same. So for example, like this weekend, there are things that I learned from us building a freaking garden that I am going to go bring into, and I'm even bringing into this podcast now. Like this whole idea was sparked when I was outside. And so here I am recording a podcast for you guys, or that I'm going to bring into my content for the rest of the week. And like, it just, everything feeds everything. And I know that, I'll see so often, I have a friend who was like, I'm freaking out. I've been in my life all weekend and I haven't been working on my business. What do I do? And I'm like, yo, chill, because sometimes working on your business, working on your leadership is not going to look quote unquote productive. It's going to look like you taking a day and going to the beach. It's going to look like you taking a day and going and being with the trees or being with a girlfriend, something like that. It's going to look quote unquote unproductive. Yet if you allow yourself to relax into that sensation, there's usually something that you're going to learn on the other side that's actually going to feed your entire freaking life and your genius as well. Especially when you know your genius, because you can apply it to all of these other areas of your life. So one way that we are also diversifying is we are bringing a whole bunch of travel into our summer. We are going to Florida in July, right after my birthday. We're having family come and visit. I think one of the sweetest parts about having a house now is like we love getting to host different people, which is awesome. In August, we're going to Colorado. I might be going to Arizona. I'm having a friend from Germany come to visit with her family. And then September, we are going to Spain and potentially to Italy, which, you guys, this is wild. So Nolan was when we were planning our trip to Spain. So for those of you who don't know, my grandmother moved to Spain. And after my grandfather passed, she sold all of her things and moved to Spain to go live with her twin sister. And now they are just having the best time of their lives. They are literally always together. I will FaceTime my grandmother and I'll think like I'm just talking to her, and then she'll switch the camera. Her sister's like right next to her. They are the sweetest, most incredible human beings, and they're just having a blast together. So we are going to visit them in September. And what's really funny is before this trip, like it's a good chunk of time. We're probably going to be there for like 2 to 3 weeks potentially. I might go for a little bit longer, but Nolan was looking at it. He's like, all right, is there a way for me to do business while I'm there? And then I can potentially write this off and I can, have something to do while I'm there as well. And we were just noodling on it. He was like, maybe I'll take a class or something. And then one of his friends, who used to be someone who he literally just looked up to on Instagram, never thought that he would actually interact with him, but now has become a friend. One of his friends messaged him, was like, hey, there's an art show that I'm putting on in Barcelona and then also Florence, Italy at this time. Do you want to be a part of it? And he's like, that's exactly when we are going to Spain. So he's going to be doing a couple of art shows while we are there, some gallery shows showcasing his work in another country, which is so beautiful. And we're really just looking forward to what does it look like to travel and to create space for travel in our schedules and also still run businesses. And I haven't yet decided like how much time I'm going to take off or if I'm going to continue being in my business, because to me, honestly, business is not something that's like a have to. It's not something where I'm like, oh, this is going to take away from my time. It is something that grounds me in my own purpose. Like this is the beauty of being in your purpose for your life, is that there is such like I can't even describe it. It's like it reminds me of who the fuck I am. It reminds me of my power. It's something that I love to get to do, and everything feeds everything. So I haven't yet decided how long I'm going to take off, but we are going to be doing a little bit of traveling around here and there. And I really want to stretch what it looks like for me to work and travel, especially because June is kind of the last like settled month that we have here. And then through July, August, and September, we're just bouncing around a whole bunch. So I used to be super wigged out by travel. Like everyone was like, freedom lifestyle. I work while I travel. And I was like, yeah, cool. And I was like, I can't do that. I would get really like stressed. I would travel, but then still feel like I had to like control everything. And like I never had enough time. And then I needed 8 hours every single day to be in my business. Like all of these things I used to get super wigged out by. Now, and this also comes with like over time, me settling into my own genius, also having team and support. And the last few times I've traveled, there has been such a liberation and a creativity that comes from all of it and an efficiency. Like when I have less time, of course, everyone says this, I have less time. I'm actually way more efficient. And that comes with all this travel. So for me, it's going to be a real process in reprogramming my nervous system to not get freaked out by travel, not just create unnecessary stress on myself, really get to enjoy everything, but also understand how to balance business at the same time. And do I believe that there is a beautiful, perfect balance all the time? No, but I believe in finding pockets of time for every single thing that I desire to create within my life. So that's kind of what's up for us moving forward in this season. We've been salsa dancing a whole bunch. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see I've been posting some photos here and there. It has been, you guys, I've invested so much in my personal growth. I have invested more than you will ever know. And salsa dancing has been one of the greatest things for my own personal growth because when you go, like, yes, we learn the steps. And for me, that's something that's like a little bit outside of my comfort zone to actually go to a dance class, because I've shared about this on Instagram, but I was the person who was taken out of my dance class at 5 years old because I couldn't keep up. They were going to have to hold me back. And I'm like 5'11" now in my life. I was a tall human. So I was going to be with like the little tiny pipsqueaks, and I was like way taller than everyone. Was not graceful at all. So I remember the day. I remember the exact step that I could not get down in that dance class, and then we just never went back. So I always wanted to be a dancer, but never felt like I could, or never felt fully good enough. I knew how to shake my booty, but I did not know how to keep up with steps. So going to dance class, learning the steps has been so freaking fun. But what has been the greatest source of growth is going out and social dancing. So if you guys don't know, if you haven't danced salsa before, they have these things called salsa socials, like social dances, where you go out and they play all of this Latin music. It's like bachata, salsa, some merengue, and you go and you just dance with different people. Like it's not just you dancing with your own partner, it's anyone can ask you to dance. And it's so fun because everyone is just so friendly and so kind. And there's a sense of community with all of it. But also, it's such a great practice in following the lead. Because as a woman, as the feminine partner, I'm the follower essentially in the dance. And so, especially when you dance with someone who's not your partner, they're going to show you all of these different moves and all they're going to basically like you don't have anything choreographed. You're just following the energy of their hands, following the vibe. And the first time we did this, you guys, I was like stepping on feet. I was sweating bullets because I was so freaking nervous. And now it's just the beautiful practice and really like letting go and having fun. And it has not come without its own discomforts. I still get super, super nervous every time, but we leave and it's like, oh my God, it's so freaking good. But we also end up staying up super late. And homegirl, like, y'all, I'm young, but I cannot hang and stay up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I cannot do it. I'm like comatose the next day. So we're going to have to find a way to do them earlier in the evening. But anyways, that's what's up in our lives. I'm super excited business wise moving forward to really start to expand things this summer around your X factor, really honing in on your genius because it's a key part of purpose. I've always talked about purpose and creating a life and understanding what your specific purpose is in this world and then funneling that into, if you desire, your career or your business and creating an impact driven business or career for yourself. But your X factor is really understanding that key part of your own genius around what you do and who you serve that makes you absolutely irreplaceable, because something that I know to be true after working with dozens and dozens and dozens of human beings in close proximity and really getting to see how every single person has something so specific about them based on their lived experiences, based on the skills that they've learned over time, and based on their own innate gifts that they bring into the world that then funnels into what they do actually, is so phenomenal. It has completely shifted my own mind, and I'm just starting to notice a lot of things about our world and about human beings, and it's become just one of the highlights to get to really understand other people's geniuses and to help you guys really figure out your own specific X factor, so that you don't have to feel like you're just another coach. You don't have to feel like you're just another marketing professional. You don't have to feel like you are just another social media coordinator. You don't have to feel like that anymore. You get to know that there is something that is absolutely incredible about you that you can then apply to so many different areas. So that's something I'm super, super excited about. Some of you all have seen X Factor sessions that are already filling. Like, I've barely talked about them and they're already filling, which is so fun. So if you want to know more about that and you really want to understand how to articulate your own genius, so that you can really be an authority in your industry and be known for something specific, that will of course be in the show notes, but that's just overall something that I'm super, super excited about right now. There's going to be another fun little opportunity to get to hone in on your X Factor coming up. But yeah, that's life. That is life. It's fun. It's exciting. I love you all. Thank you for being here along the ride for this life update. Let me know what resonated with you. As I said in the beginning of this podcast, this is really an experience in walking the walk and really taking up space. I would be lying if I didn't tell you I had little parts of my own brain being like, who actually cares? Or this actually isn't of any value, but I do this not to believe my own thoughts. I do this to do something in a new way. And I woke up this morning being like, I could totally, record a podcast that I have outlined that's all about value. And, the 3 steps to be able to do this in your life. Or I could just show up and be honest and share with you all and hope that something has resonated from all of it. So that is always my greatest intention. I hope that something made a difference in your day and allowed you to feel just a little bit more fully alive. If it has, and you think there's someone in your life who could resonate with this entire podcast and might see themselves in my own personal experiences, feel free to share this with them. That always helps our podcast, helps us message get out to more people. And if you have a hot second, go ahead and give this podcast a rating and review. It's the greatest way, if you've enjoyed this, to give back to the podcast. And again, allow this to be seen by even more people. And so with all that said, I love you all. I will see you on the next episode. Mwah! Oh, and as always, share with me on Instagram at Stephanie Elsperman what you are taking away. I always love getting to have conversations with you guys after the podcast. So now actually, I will see you on the next episode. Mwah!